It's a record for this quarter. iPhone is still half the business of Apple in terms of revenue. It's like 49% of the business, the most successful category for Apple, and it's every quarter is just adding $1 billion.
This is this year's big thing, big feature for Apple.
But I think nobody expected it to do as good as it did.
So there's going to be a whole new product line coming in to this category. That's going to be a chance to grow.
Which is a big chunk.
They had to do that. Hello everyone, welcome to PhoneArena's show. Once again, it is time for a new episode of our favorite mobile tech show. Woo!
Let's go. The PhoneArena show, episode 25 is here. And we have 3 exciting topics as always.
As always.
But let's not review everything right away.
No. Let's tease it a little bit.
Let's go.
Let's tease it a little bit. So first, we'll start with Apple's new financial report, which is a Q4, but not to be confused with the calendar Q4,
right?
Which is, we are deep into Q4 now in calendar terms, but in financial terms for Apple, their Q4 was last 3 months or?
It just ended September. So
ended September, that quarter. For them, this is because the financial world is a whole different world,
right?
Different calendar. And then we move on to the surprising success of the Pixel 9.
And yeah, we know it's a great phone. We know it's a new design, but we did not expect, I think nobody expected it to do as good as it did. But stay tuned for the numbers. They're really interesting.
There's been a peak in sales, apparently, for Google. So yeah, we'll talk about that and see where that came from. And finally, we'll end on a high-tech topic, which is a new smartphone display technology by Samsung,
right?
Which is going to debut for the first time soon on a regular flagship. So it's been used already, but just in foldable devices, and now for the first time in a regular flagship phone, which promises record-breaking brightness levels,
colors,
HDR brightness, and listen to that, record-breaking efficiency levels. And so it's getting brighter, better, but also lighter and more energy efficient.
That's great news because the display is actually the one component that consumes a lot of energy. It's not quite as high energy consumption as the processor, but it's pretty close, and it's a very important component for how long your smartphone battery lasts. So this is a very important development. That phone is also real. It's probably going to be the first of this new generation of devices coming very soon globally, but probably not to the US. But we'll talk more about this later on.
But now let's get back to Apple's financial results for fiscal Q4, which have been, are they record-breaking results?
It's a record for this quarter.
For Q4.
For Q4, yeah.
All right. Yeah, the record-breaking results. Mixed feelings, once again.
Oh, it's a record, so it's got to be good.
Yeah, it's got to be good, but at the same time, these recent record-breaking quarters for Apple, they have this tinge of great results, but
right.
Yeah, but maybe the growth is not coming from where they hoped it would. Maybe because it's some other factors involved. But you said, it's a record, so it's got to be good. I'm sure Tim Cook is not too worried right now. So let's break it down a little bit. No surprises, no major surprises once again. iPhone was relatively stable, but that was the quarter actually that saw the introduction of a lot of these new products now, including the iPhone 16.
Yeah, but it was like, so let's once again say this is the quarter ending in September, and the iPhone launched like mid-September.
Okay,
so it's just like a week or two of sales for the new iPhone.
The impact's going to flow into
the bigger impact is definitely
it's
going to be in the holiday quarter.
Yeah. Got it. Okay, but otherwise, that main product category is being stable, as you can see. iPads, a little bit, I believe, below expectations for Apple, but still, almost there.
Yeah.
Almost there. No major peaks or dips in performance. Then, of course, Tim Cook's favorite services
Ooh, that's
division continues to grow.
Yeah, and services has been probably the most successful
Yeah.
category for Apple, and it's every quarter it's just adding a billion on top, a billion on top.
Billion here and there.
Yeah, and this quarter again, it's almost a billion up to 25 billion. And there is no seasonality here. So unlike the iPhone,
Yeah.
where we see like holiday quarter, you get a new launch, it goes up, then it falls down. Here it's only up. It's the trajectory is very, very good for Apple. And again, 25 billion, and the services category has a very good profit ratio as
Yeah.
well. So the profit margins are great there. Solid growth, nothing to complain about.
Yeah, those subscriptions keep trickling in little by little. It adds up. So, but and you said that maybe okay. So that was a maybe slightly above expectations quarter, but maybe next one we should not be shocked if it's not another record-breaking quarter for Apple.
Yeah, basically that's what that's what Apple said in terms of expectations for the next quarter. So they give this estimate for the next quarter.
Yeah.
What should investors expect? And it's gonna grow slowly, but probably not. It's not gonna be like the super cycle that some people expected around the iPhone 16, because you got these new technologies. You have the camera control, you have Apple Intelligence slowly rolling out. But it turns out that maybe it's not gonna be this super cycle. Not everybody expected this so-called super cycle with magical huge growth.
Yeah.
Some people did. It's probably not going to happen. That might happen next year with the iPhone 17, which is expected to be a bigger redesign. But yeah, in terms of what's currently the story for this quarter, I think we should say that like for this current quarter, we see that iPhone is still half the business of Apple in terms of revenue. It's like 49% of the business. Which is a big chunk. And we see that the iPad, as you mentioned, wasn't as strong. And this is particularly interesting because Apple launched a new iPad Pro and a new iPad Air, which had this full quarter that they launched in the summer. And this quarter, they had a full quarter available to customers to buy them. And sales are slightly down compared to the previous quarter. So probably not what Apple expected and hoped for in their best days, but still solid numbers. And next year, Apple is expected in the first half of next year to launch a new base iPad, which is a model commonly used by students and the cheapest in the lineup. So
And
that
it sells in the most numbers.
it's out definitely. That's a good point. And that's gonna boost sales next year. So there is something coming in the future. But yeah. And wearables is another category that we should talk about. Is like you had a new Apple Watch Series 10, which had a more or less big redesign. It's slimmer and lighter now, but it didn't lead to bigger numbers in terms of sales. And I think the problem here is Apple did not announce a new Apple Watch Ultra, which has been this super popular model and a very expensive model as well, nearly double the price of the regular Apple Watch. And it brings lot more revenue, profits, everything. And that didn't come this year. So this is kind of bringing the company down. There's no new Apple Watch SE model. So yeah, those are still products that will come next year.
Yeah.
So it's not all that surprising that the wearables category is not growing fast, but
there was
it should
a
be
little bit
noted.
of a redesign to the to the standard watch, but maybe not too huge of a redesign. At the same time, I would understand Apple not releasing a new Ultra because the Ultra 2 was kind of like the Ultra 1.
Yeah, it was.
Not much change there.
Yeah,
So maybe they just don't have anything major to add to it right now.
Yeah, they added a new color at least. They added a new black color, which many people love, by the way. It looks very good, but it's just a color, right? So, and the other thing in that category, which is very interesting for me to look, is the AirPods sales, because Apple announced a very underrated feature for the AirPods Pro in particular, is they double as hearing aids now.
Yeah.
And many people who have low to mid-level of hearing problems should consider these because they cost around $250. So the price is much lower than specialized hearing aids, which often the price there is in the thousands.
I don't know if it's gonna like match a real hearing aid earpiece.
Yeah, I think it's like Apple says particularly that these are good if you have like low to mid level of hearing loss. And if you have bigger problems, then probably not. But for many people, this would be the case, and it would be interesting to see if that pushes adoption even further. But this feature just rolled out this recently, so we're gonna see the effect of this one feature over the coming months and quarters.
I think it's gonna come later. Another thing for the future, at least, of the wearables, home, and accessories category from Apple's business, and we talked about it last time.
Apple's next big thing
is the next big thing, which is the smart home display. I believe it's going to fall into that category. Wearables, home, and accessories. So there's going to be a whole new product line coming in to this category, and that's going to be a chance to grow at least this category.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Maybe not by a lot. I don't know. I don't think it's going to be a huge hit, but still something.
Let's see what Apple introduces in the future. But in terms of the next quarter expectations, it's probably not going to be great. And the major reason that analysts quote here is the continued weakness in China, because China is another big market for Apple. Probably, I think it's the second biggest market after North America, somewhere in that ballpark. It's a huge market, and there has been a number of Chinese companies that are innovating very aggressively, introducing new features, and the local Chinese people, they use their phones slightly differently. So these Android phone makers like Oppo, Vivo, Xiaomi, Huawei, Honor, all those names are able to provide some tailor-made features for that market, and they obviously have many new innovations they can introduce a little bit faster than Apple. So people are buying them, and Apple is still a strong name in China, but the trajectory is not looking great so far.
Not looking great, and the audience there, those guys, they like their own companies, their own makers, so there's a little bit of a loyalty there.
And another factor is even government employees were banned from using iPhones, and a couple of
not secure enough.
a couple of months ago, obviously for national security reasons.
They take this Huawei phone
instead. Basically that's what they were told. So that's definitely another factor.
Which is interesting because Apple's CFO, Luca Maestri, the guy with probably the biggest paycheck at Apple, or somewhere near the top, said, with regards to these latest results, we're very pleased that our active installed base of devices reached a new all-time high across all products in all geographic segments, thanks to our high levels of customer satisfaction and loyalty. So it's probably not going down in China, but just not going up fast enough. That's the problem.
That's a good point.
That is the problem for Apple in China. So if you ask me, I believe that the next quarter, or maybe even the next 2 quarters, are going to be more of a steady performance quarters for Apple. I don't see them having any huge troubles or hitting any, significant road bumps. But they're obviously not going to be any huge hits or big growth spurts, for Apple. One is because the AI rollout, the Apple Intelligence rollout that they did, it's going to be a very gradual one. It's not like this one-time peak, which could have led to a mini super cycle, maybe.
Definitely.
Probably not.
Apple Intelligence is like the keyword. That's what Apple advertises
they're
all the
still
time.
trying to push it real hard. So this is this year's big thing, big feature for Apple. They're going to keep pushing that, but depending on how the market reacts, now that 18.1 and iOS 18.2 going to hit the market over the next months, we'll see how the market reacts to Apple Intelligence and what type of usage it gets, because Apple tracks all sorts of data from using its products, and we'll see if Apple's going to keep pushing on the Apple Intelligence thing or drive it back just a little bit. But in that case, they'll have to replace it with something else to push forward, which I'm not sure what it's going to be.
Yeah, just to add to your point here, it's been interesting also looking at Apple stock, the way it's been growing in this past year, and it's been growing pretty steadily on the background of all these news about Apple Intelligence coming to the whole lineup. We see like the new MacBooks all support Apple Intelligence, the new iPad Mini is updated to support Apple Intelligence. So Apple is obviously embracing Apple Intelligence on a company-wide level, and this kind of brings investor confidence up. The stock has been up by nearly 20% the last couple of months. But just looking at this quarter, the results and the expectations for the next quarter, they were a bit disappointing, and the stock dropped actually a few percentage points after the results were announced. But yeah, Apple Intelligence is obviously the big thing. I think we can make a slight pivot here.
Yep, absolutely. We are. And now, how do you want to do this?
So speaking of Apple Intelligence, we should say like we have a new report coming about the biggest chunk of Apple Intelligence features.
Okay.
They come with iOS 18.2.
Yeah.
So this brings you just a quick reminder. We talked about this last time, but once again, ChatGPT integration, the big thing. Visual intelligence, again, related to ChatGPT, also kind of works like Google Lens.
Yeah.
And then you have the AI image generation tools. You have Genmoji, Image Playground, and Image Wand, which kind of generates an image based on the textual context.
Right.
So these are the 5 big features of iOS 18.2, and we know Apple usually says like we're gonna release this in December. This usually means like the last moment, the last days of December. But that's not what's gonna happen this time around. A new report from Mark Gurman from Bloomberg suggests that Apple will roll out iOS 18.2 earlier than expected, the week of December 2nd. So very early December, we're already gonna have this big chunk of Apple Intelligence. Obviously, for the holidays, you can generate your holiday Genmoji and have fun with it.
Right in time for the holidays.
Have fun with it.
Yeah, and that is the, like, at least for now, that shapes as the big Apple Intelligence update, because 18.1 was just like a little appetizer.
Yes, definitely.
And now the majority of these bigger features are going to come with 18.2. So we'll see. Okay, and on that note, but we still don't know exactly how iPhone 16 sales are going on, right? We're not really, because there was just a couple of weeks at most of sales, if not less, from this last quarter. So we're yet to see how the iPhone 16 is being received by the market.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we know that the Pixel 9 from Google is actually having a good time right now.
A big surprise for me, like personally, for everyone, right?
Why? You don't believe in the Pixel?
Oh, not in those numbers that we see, right?
Yeah, a little bit of a huge jump we're seeing. And these stats come from intelligence company StatCounter.
Yeah.
And so they're indicating what sort of growth for month to month. The Pixel 9, like sales volume market share shift from September to October. They're going from about 5% market share in the US.
Yeah, that's the data for North America. It was even less than 5%, 4.8%.
4.8%, and in October, a bunch of Pixel 9 phones have been bought, and they reached
nearly 13% market share.
13%, almost 13% of market share.
Which is like probably half or even more than half the market share of Samsung phones, which is the second biggest company in terms of like phone sales in North America, which is huge. Like for years, Google has been making these Pixel phones, and they've been competing for the 4th spot with Motorola/Lenovo.
Yeah.
Like Motorola mostly makes budget phones, right? So you could say that the Pixel has been the 3rd big option on the North American market for a while now. But it was still a small player. And now all of a sudden, in just 1 month with the Pixel 9 series, we're seeing a huge uptick. And first, we have to give kudos to Google for launching these phones earlier
Yeah.
because this was a huge factor.
Yeah.
Just moving the release window earlier, that probably helped
Yeah,
a lot.
otherwise they would have come like in October and November.
Late
They would be
October, yeah.
coming out right about now,
Yeah.
maybe. So they're not gonna get any serious discounts for Black Friday. Moving on to the holiday period at the end of the year, they probably wouldn't make that much of an impact with the iPhone already here. People looking for new phones would have already
Yeah.
made their minds up to get an iPhone.
That's the big factor, right?
So they came out right before Apple
Yeah.
and managed to score a little bit of a,
And we have another theory, which is unconfirmed, but
Yeah.
I think we should say it because
I have a theory
Yeah,
for,
let's
for
hear
what
it.
we're seeing. So it is this. Sneaky Google decided to kind of, they were like, okay, so the Pixel 6 turned out all right. I had a little bit of a problem with it, but, good foundation.
Right.
Then Pixel 7 was a more of a well-rounded product, had some problems and so on, but no.
So the Pixel 6, just for those who don't know, it was the big redesign, first
Yeah.
big redesign.
It was the first big redesign in recent history, at
Yeah,
least in the Pixel lifespan. Then we get the Pixel 8, which was it was a solid release. It was like maybe the final form, the finished form of that new design concept that they launched with the Pixel 6.
Yeah.
Something like that.
It was the final iteration, we can say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't think it made a splash, really. It was somewhat forgettable.
Not as big as this one, definitely.
Not as, and now with the Pixel 9, what's happening is it almost feels like a relaunch for the Pixel series.
Oh, that's a good point, yeah.
Like a whole new start. And so like a remake almost. It has an entirely new design, which is not new. It's the iPhone 16 design, just
With Android on
with
it.
Android on it. And I actually like it. I think it's
Yeah, I do too, yeah.
nicely, it's comfortable. It has nicely rounded edges, so it doesn't have that like first gen feel like the iPhone 14, 13, that sort of version with they had the sharp corners that would, hurt your hand when they're using this. So they only like slightly rounded it up with the iPhone 15, and now the 16 is even better, and it has the bigger screen and the thinner bezels. But the Pixel 9 right out of the gate, it has all of these problems ironed out. So it feels very, very well, actually. It feels great.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
new design, but it's like a copy of more or less of the iPhone design. And so as people were entering retail and going into the stores or maybe even online and were looking at either the real product or images of the product, they got mistaken, they got confused, and they thought they were buying an iPhone.
It looks so much like an iPhone. You can have those two on a table, and if you don't pay attention to the camera module,
Which most people don't, by the way.
it like in terms of just pure feel and design, they feel very, very similar.
Very similar, very clever trick from Google to just copy paste the design. Yeah, and so yeah. Now the question remains: if next month, for example, people will start figuring it out and returning their pixels back
How it turns out it's not an iPhone.
for a full refund and going with the iPhone 16 Pro. Remains to be seen.
Yeah.
We'll see. That is my theory. I understand it's not really rock solid, but
I think it's a joking theory in some ways, but it's also a real possibility that some people just went to the store, saw a phone that looks just like an iPhone, and decided to try something new, or thought, why not give it a shot?
Yeah.
But another factor I should point out here that it could also have been something that people kind of thought about is the support for RCS on the iPhone, and the way that you no longer are limited to those green bubbles, not not receiving proper images in iMessage. And I think especially for the North American market where this is super important, like this could have been a factor for some people. I'm not saying all of them because probably not all of them even know about RCS. But like this is a big thing, not no longer being at a disadvantage because you're the guy with the green bubbles.
Well, I believe do you think? I think they still feel that. Like you still feel like the odd one in the group, like that guy.
Well,
with
at
the
least
green bubbles.
at least you're getting like the images in high quality. You're getting reactions.
It was never about the image quality and the reactions. It was about the color of the bubble, is what I think. So yeah, social pressure wise, I don't think that's going to change much at this point. But all joking aside, I think Apple is about to start feeling some pressure because every trend, every zeitgeist comes to an end at some point, and people will stop caring about green bubbles, blue bubbles, and all that stuff at some point, because that whole new generation, that's the blue bubble generation, like they're growing up, and at some point this whole theme of blue bubbles, green bubbles, I have everything Apple and so on, that's gonna, I believe, fade out a little bit, get old, and these people are gonna stop caring about that. And at the same time, I feel like Apple is soon about to start feeling some pressure, real pressure, not just from the competition, but also, more importantly, from the market. And we can already see it happening. Now they were forced literally to upgrade the RAM capacities on the current gen MacBook Air. It's never happened.
That was a big move, right?
If you go into the Apple store and buy an Apple MacBook Air today, it's going to have double the RAM compared to the same machine that was sold in the previous months.
Yeah.
They had to do that, and it's finally this whole madness of 8 gigs of RAM on Macs is coming to an end. The new iMac, the new Mac Mini, the new MacBook Pros that are going to come out are no longer be sold with 8 gigs of RAM, which, sure, that might be because of
the MacBook Air as well.
The MacBook Air as well. Yeah. Might be because of Apple Intelligence reasons.
Yeah, probably that's what they're saying, because you need that extra RAM for Apple Intelligence.
But at the same time, come on, it's 2024 and the iPhone 16 has 60 Hz display, which is madness.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Which is madness. The Galaxy A16, that is 1.6.
A $200 phone.
A $200 phone. It has a
90 Hz
90 Hz display. Yeah. So something's going to give here, and it's going to be Apple at some point.
Yeah.
That is my take on what's happening.
We're predicting doom and gloom for Apple. No, just kidding. But yeah, some features will definitely have to be upgraded. And on the topic of 60 Hz, which is like obviously the sore point of the iPhone 16, the regular version, still
it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing.
It's embarrassing. But this is
more than being a green bubble.
This is yet another example that Apple is feeling the pressure, because rumors say that the iPhone 17 next year will finally get 120 Hz Pro motion display. So that pressure is obviously mounting. We see the company adapting to it and changing. So at least that it's healthy that it's responding, but maybe just a little bit later than we would have hoped for.
Yeah, a couple years later, but still something. Now, and on the topic of displays.
Oh, on the topic of displays,
how about we talk about new technology? That is, I'm not really sure how new it is exactly, because no one knows out there. But so what do we have? It's the phone that we teased about in the beginning of the episode.
Yeah.
We can finally reveal which one it is.
Ooh.
It is a Realme phone. cricket
What,
sounds.
what is a Realme phone?
A Realme phone. What is tell the audience, what is a Realme phone?
So basically, Realme is not a very well-known brand in the States, but it's somewhat popular in Europe. Again, it's not a household name, but
No.
it's a company that's popular among nerds and like enthusiasts. And basically, we have to roll back things a little bit. So Xiaomi and Oppo are two of the big names in China. And both of these companies make flagship phones, but they also have a lineup of affordable phones, and they are very competitive. And Xiaomi has this Redmi line of phones, which is basically reserved for its budget affordable phones. And then Oppo had to respond, creating a somewhat similar name that looks like Redmi, but it's slightly different, and it created Realme. And you can see like Redmi and Realme, like the names look very...
Such a Chinese move.
It's such a typical move for China. But yeah, basically those are the two budget phone brands for China. But Realme has kind of evolved, and now Realme phones come in flagship form too. They're just slightly different, more tailored towards gamers and towards certain demographics. And the company just unveiled, like today we're recording this on Monday, November the 4th, just unveiled today their new Realme GT7 Pro, a flagship phone with two brand new technologies, but one we'll focus on today, brand new screens called Eco² by Samsung, and it's the latest generation of OLED technology. What makes this special is like all of the current phones that you have like a polarizing layer between like in the OLED structure, in the panel. And this polarizing layer, it's adding some complexity and doesn't allow the screen to shine brightly as it could. And now Realme is introducing this new Samsung display in its phone without this polarizing layer. And this allows this screen to reach record brightness levels, better increased contrast, better color accuracy, and most importantly, probably better power efficiency. And just let's talk some numbers here. In terms of pure brightness, the current iPhone 16 series, which are quite bright, great displays, but they use the older technology, and their maximum brightness, HDR peak brightness, 1600 nits. This new phone, 2000 nits. So we're seeing a pretty big boost in brightness. So this is, again, very impressive. But then you look at the numbers in terms of power consumption, and the reduction is nearly 50%.
It's crazy.
So yeah, basically, these are the kind of improvements I get, and probably show you the images right here so you can see them here in the podcast. Yeah, basically that's the short of it, the new Eco² display by Samsung.
We're not entirely sure exactly how this technology is called. There's not a lot of information about it. What we have is coming straight from Realme, and they're advertising this display as the Eco², that is like a small 2 up there in the superscript, Eco² Sky display. Now I also saw it in another source as the Eco² Infinite display. This is probably a new generation of this Eco² display. Samsung debuted the Eco² OLED displays a few years back in 2021, and the first product to get that new display tech at the time was the Galaxy Fold 3.
Okay, so we told just the viewers that this phone is the first phone that gets it, but it was available on foldable phones before.
Yes.
Okay, so
on
only
some foldable phones
Okay.
had this technology. Maybe they had to find this way to get rid of the additional layer for the polarizer. It's not that there is no polarizer. It's now integrated somehow with the other components. But so that was the story of how this technology came to be, and now it's evolved. It's a new generation of this technology, and for the first time ever, we're seeing it in a regular phone, which is not a foldable. just a normal phone.
Yeah.
And we can see from Realme's like teaser pictures.
Which there are a lot of pictures. You're probably seeing them on the screen right now.
They show how the whole product is significantly thinner than the predecessor phone. And that is maybe because of these two innovations. One is this 8T LTPO panel by Samsung, the Eco² Sky Infinite or whatever it is, because it's bound to be thinner for sure.
Yeah.
But also the other one which you mentioned, which is the silicon carbon battery, which we are now official experts certified at silicon carbon batteries. But this is, you mentioned, it's like a new generation of these.
Yeah, it's the second, like the latest generation. This is again a phone that it's produced by the biggest battery maker, Amperex. So this is a big company, but again, Realme is one of the first companies to adopt this technology.
Yeah. And we only told you about the first generation of silicon carbon batteries like a few weeks ago. And now we're telling you about the second generation. It's out there.
I think technically this one is the third one, because there was already like a first generation. They made the move to a second. This one is like technically the third generation.
So it's already like mature technology.
Yeah, it's pretty.
But still making its way into the mainstream of the market. And now this Realme is going to have this one. And the battery capacity is how much?
So yeah, listen carefully. The previous phones, like from Realme, they had like a 5,400 milliamp hour battery.
Which is not a small battery.
This is bigger than the Galaxy S24 Ultra. And now 6,500 milliamp hours. That's a lot. And the phone is thinner.
6,500 milliamp hour battery. And the phone is thinner.
That's awesome. I'm
gen.
genuinely super excited about this. So we'll be testing these phones. Hopefully we can receive them very soon, because the Realme just launched in China, and it's probably gonna launch globally by the end of this month.
Yeah.
Which is again quite soon.
Which is probably gonna be, and I think they said this may turn it into the first Snapdragon 8 Elite phone to be available internationally.
Oh yeah.
This Realme GT7 Pro. So exciting stuff. It makes me think that, even in component categories like the display, which are fairly mature, at this point, like I personally don't make a huge difference generation to generation. All of them look great to me, as long as they're high refresh rate, not like the iPhone 16 vanilla display. They look awesome, but it turns out they're getting brighter, more energy efficient. Imagine that, 50%, up to 50% more energy efficient, coupled together with this humongous 6,500 milliamp hour battery.
Yeah, that's a killer.
It's going to be a huge jump in battery life.
Yeah, and I just wanted to show everyone watching this one picture shown by Realme, where you can see this new display technology, the Eco² one, and you see like this horse, obviously, on the display, and it's so much brighter compared to the iPhone 16 Pro Max, which is side-by-side comparison between these two devices. So you think like, okay, that's a mature technology, but just how much better can it get?
Yeah.
And it indeed gets much better with this much increased brightness. So
and man, that's exciting stuff. I'm sorry. Add to that the Snapdragon 8 Elite, which we talked about the last time. It's bound to have a way better power efficiency as well, because they're making the move from 4 nanometers to 3 nanometers.
And to a custom Qualcomm Orion CPU core.
Qualcomm design, so bigger battery, more energy efficient display, and all with big numbers. In the increases. And the Snapdragon Elite, which is going to be a huge 2025, is going to be a rock star of a year.
We're going to have phones with 2-day battery life, with great displays, much faster than before. It's shaping up to be pretty exciting. And as you said, the pressure is mounting on Apple to respond with all these things.
With
hopefully.
something more than a small iPad mounted to a stand.
Yeah, that's
That's what I'll say. And on that note, thank you for being with us. Guys, if you like the show, hit the like button. So absolutely subscribe to the PhoneArena show. Drop a comment or a question below. Let us know what you want to see us talk about here. Do you want to say anything?
Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you're interested in these technological breakdowns that we are doing here, because this is the time we see all those new technologies. They're exciting for us. Hopefully you liked what you hear and see on the show.
Yeah, let us know which of the 3 topics we discussed today you liked the most.
All right.
See you next time.
See you next time, and thanks for sticking around.